Hey gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Let's get right into it. They're off for another week. Can you believe it? Well, I barely could until I had to realize that it was what you have to believe. They have that way of doing it to you. Let's get right into this.
Prime Minister Carney, I just want to go back to a response you had to a question about Canadian job losses. Earlier today, you primarily talked about macroeconomics, the Major Projects Office, which is yet to actually approve the project, and some more things the government has announced that are going to be more medium to long-term projects. But what's your message to the 84,000 additional Canadians who are looking for work right now, who are worried about their bills today?
Well, the first thing is that any job loss, of course, is a challenge for the individuals, for their families. And what's important is that we're putting in place not just the measures for the long term. By the way, don't have time to go through all the elements of the premise that aren't exactly accurate there in terms of approvals and moving forward, but also that we're providing support in moving the economy forward. Here's where the Canadian economy is today. Well, we've lost jobs. We've also created jobs. We have taken steps immediately to help Canadians in terms of the tax cut for 22 million Canadians. That is starting to take effect now, the income tax cut there, providing groceries and essentials benefit to Canadians, so the Canadians most affected. That's a benefit that reaches millions of Canadians, including up to about $1,400 over the course of a year for a family of four. There's other measures that are coming that will provide immediate support. And the government is very focused on growing this economy. And part of how we're going to grow this economy, yes, it's immediate measures, as I've just indicated, but it's also getting the confidence and the investment in the country, a country that's more independent, that's diversifying our partnerships, that's building first and foremost at home, and then secure abroad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Found that closing a supervised drug consumption site led to no increase in deaths and no increase in emergency room visits. In fact, after the drug site closed, users were more likely to access life-saving addiction treatment. Wow. Every single drug consumption site in Canada exists only because the health minister approved them under federal law. The minister claims to follow science, so does she accept the science that proves consumption sites are not the solution to addiction? Great question.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme mon collègue le sait déjà, je l'ai répété plusieurs fois, il n'y a pas une seule solution pour résoudre cette crise. Et c'est sûr, il y a différentes recherches qui montrent plusieurs résultats.
L'interprétation ne fonctionnait pas. Est-ce que...
The interpreter apologizes. The microphone was off. Interpretation is back. From the beginning again, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've told my colleagues several times, a number of different studies show different results on the matter of supervised consumption sites. And as my colleague knows, there is not one single solution to this question.
To pick up their little brother, there have been many cases.
Can you commit Canadians that if any homeowner won't be charged if armed intruders enter their property?
We don't want to create a system where people feel they have the right to shoot and kill somebody.
People understand people's fear of being victimized in their home. People are concerned to leave their children at home at night when they go out, and it's absolutely an issue.
And I think the really astonishing thing, people have their arguments about floor crossers, but he's taking from the NDP, he's taking from the Conservatives, he's very popular in French Canada and English Canada, even in Western Canada, and rain will fall on the political garden party of Mark Carney at some point, but boy, he is on a heater. And I don't think it's a left-right thing. I think it's a north-south thing. I think it has to do with his calmness. I think it has to do with the confidence he gives Canadians when it comes to dealing with the impossible, preposterous presidency of Donald Trump. And I think he's probably wise to not push for a spring election because it is that seriousness as opposed to partisan focus that I think is giving him this kind of appeal. And I think the really astonishing thing, people have their arguments about floor crossers, but he's taking from the NDP, he's taking from the Conservatives. He's very popular in French Canada and English Canada, even in Western Canada. And rain will fall on the political garden party of Mark Carney at some point. But boy, he is on a heater. And I don't think it's a left-right thing. I think it's a north.
I'm David Common. Here's what else we're watching this Monday morning. Prime Minister Mark Carney wrapping up another whirlwind international trip with meetings today in the UK. He met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the leader speaking about the war in the Middle East and condemning Iranian attacks on civilians. They also discussed Russia's war on Ukraine. London, the last of the stops on Carney's trip. It also happens to be his birthday today, and he's slated to meet with King Charles later. I'm David Common. Here's what else we're watching.
Dr. Summers, it is my understanding that Mark Tyndall served as Deputy Public Health Officer under the provincial BC government until 2018. Is that correct?
Sounds about right to the best of my knowledge, yes.
After leaving the government, Mark Tyndall launched a vending machine company called MySafe, which dispensed opioids to drug users. What can you tell us about this vending machine company?
Well, I can confirm that I've seen the machines in action. And at the time that they were being developed at sort of the concept stage, I suggested that there were much more effective priorities. And in fact, that taking the step of responding to people who are living in poverty. So it's important to note that these machines were installed in what are referred to as low barrier housing developments. And from prior research, one of the things that was most urgently needed among people who were socially estranged, including those in low barrier housing, was the opportunity to be engaged in meaningful relationships and on a path to social reintegration, which, by the way, is something that harm reduction interventions are capable of initiating. I thought that it was exactly the wrong type of message to take as we were in the first year of a declared public health emergency, to be rather than engaging alienated people interpersonally, that we would instead be pouring our energies and attentions into an interface that involved a machine. But that, my view, was fairly forcefully outvoted by people in positions of authority.
Yeah, and I have some follow-up questions on that as well. So according to Health Canada's website, the federal government gave this company over $3.5 million. Is this correct?
I've seen that, and also an additional tranche of funds as well. So I think that that's sort of a low estimate of what we've invested collectively.
Okay, Dr. Summers, did Mark Tyndall advocate for policies like decriminalization and safety?
As I travel across the country, people are recognizing how important it is that we have a strong New Democratic Party, that we have a party that can get to work right away. You know, this rebuilding needs to start on day one. It needs to be something that we're focused on. And I think people see, you know, you mentioned, I'm the only one that has a seat in the House of Commons. I'm the only one with the experience winning my seat. So that's something I'll be able to get to work doing on the 1st.
People in Lakeland call it a catch and release revolving door criminal system, not a justice one. And the worst part, it doesn't just happen this way. People elected to stand and pass laws in this very place, these liberals, made it that way. Over the past decade, they've weakened penalties for serious crimes. They've let criminals, gangsters, terrorists run free, put law-abiding, innocent Canadians at risk, and re-traumatize victims. These same liberals passed Bill C-75 that introduced the concept of the principle of restraint, which outright directed judges to make it easier for repeat offenders to walk free on bail, quote, at the earliest reasonable opportunity and on the least onerous conditions. So let's be straight here. This so-called principle says Canadians should trust criminals to follow the rules, like the law, and their bail conditions. Yeah, that works well. The Liberals also passed Bill C-5 that allowed house arrest for serious crimes like illegal drug trafficking, illegal drug importing, and major gun crimes like drive-by shootings and illegal gun trafficking, you know, while they target law-abiding firearms owners. The truth is that time and again, the Liberals directly legislated favor for criminals and punishment for victims and innocent Canadians. That's got to change. So that's exactly what our Conservative Lethbridge MP's Bill C-246 aims to do.
Who gets public money.
Okay,
right?
So any company that gets public money.
Anywhere, well, it's a public healthcare system.
Okay.
Everybody gets public money.
So everyone's
right.
on it.
Everybody's getting public money. Right?
So it's everybody.
It's everybody.
Wow.
So we did have a public-private partnership with the Fraser Health Authority.
Okay.
And we were told in our hospice. So I became the president of the Delta Hospice Society. And we were told, because we had a hospice that we operated, a facility that we actually built. We fundraised $8 million. We built it. We got a land lease for 35 years. We built those buildings on it. We were told that if we want money, we're going to have to start killing our patients. And we said, well, we're not killing our patients. We're palliative care. We don't do that.
Right. The whole point is to just ease the suffering as they go through this experience.
Live well.
Life, yeah.
Until your natural end, which
right.
we can help you with.
Yeah.
Right? And so they said, well, you're not getting any more money. And we said, that's fine. We don't want your money and we don't need your money.
Wow, okay.
Right? So
yeah.
we're sitting on this land with our buildings. So we had 25 years left on that land lease. So as soon as we started to resist and be defiant, not get into lockstep, they canceled that lease with 25 years left.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
They evicted us from our buildings, took our money away, and basically took our facility from us, kicked us off the land, and expropriated those buildings, $8.5 million worth, to the government. So the government walked in, started to operate our hospice with us gone, and provide euthanasia there.
That is absolutely outrageous, and it does fit into this model we're seeing where they will shut down a bank account. They go against the lease that's been signed. What good is a lease if it doesn't, protect the property and you've invested that funding and money into knowing you're going to be there for a period of time, and all just because you're like, we're not going to offer death as one of the options in our hospice.
That's right. So you are now compelled. You see, and this kind of made, right, is conquest and then compel. That's the dance. That's the modus operandi that they're using, and that's going to be facilitated by the court system, by the judiciary.
Yeah.
Right? And all of our courts and our judges are appointed in Canada, appointed by the government.
Yeah. And so the government is controlling the whole thing. And where does the media come into this? Why is the media not pushing back? I know here we have pharmaceutical control of our media, so we'd be kind of screwed here, but you don't have that in Canada.
No, we have government control of our media. The government gives the media billions of dollars. So basically it's, I joke, kind of not really, that is like Soviet-style Pravda.
Yeah.
That's our media.
So none of the television stations, they all get government funding?
They all get money, but particularly the CBC.
Yeah.
That's the state media outlet, and they get money, right? And of course, we have never been able to get our message onto the legacy media, into the mainstream media. It's all very pro-made. So people don't really even know how bad it is out there.
And you can ask me to do it in French at the end. So under the arrangements in the IEA, the exporters of oil, like Norway, like Canada, we don't have to have reserves because we're providing oil to the market. It's for people who are importers. They have to have reserves so that they can buffer those. It's like foreign exchange reserves. And the rules are you should have at least 90 days reserves for those importers. What we do is we provide oil to the global market. We will continue to do so because we are a safe, low risk, low cost, and increasingly low carbon exporter. And what the Minister of Natural Resources was referring to was the perspective, what the upcoming exports that we'll be doing, the 23.8 million. I actually don't know the exact time frame he was referring to. I could do the calculation. Someone else maybe might do it. We have some marge to maneuver, but the part of our constraint, both we have to increase production, take some investment in the oil sands and elsewhere. The thing I was going to add is one of the conversations I had today was with Equinor about Bay du Nord, which is a very attractive project off Newfoundland, which we look to move forward. That will provide additional, not in the short term, but in the medium term. Again, very low carbon oil in terms of production and transportation.
Said on more than one occasion, Justin Trudeau brought in more bills designed to regulate and censor the internet than any other subject. More than about inflation, more than about housing, more than about the Ukraine-Russia war. If you judge a man by what he spends his efforts to do, you would say Justin Trudeau's most important issue was censorship. We have a new prime minister. He's been in office for a year. And unfortunately, he's chosen to revive Justin Trudeau's censorship and regulation agenda. The bills have new numbers now because the old parliament was dissolved. Bill C9 is one that's particularly troublesome. Joining us now to talk about it and analyze it is our friend and former journalist and current member of parliament for the London, Ontario area, Andrew Lawton, who's been following this closely. Andrew, great to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ezra.
This will be
fun. Andrew, what I like about you is you come from a journalistic background, and when you were a journalist, you were very sensitive to matters of censorship, and you brought that ethical concern with you to Parliament. So first of all, thank you. Tell me the latest on Bill C9. There's so many numbers because the bills are changed and there's new ones. Maybe tell us what the short English name of the bill is and give us a bit of a summary and then dive right into it.
Well, the Liberals call it the Combating Hate Act. Now, at committee yesterday, I tried to amend the title to the Combating Freedom of Expression Act, but sadly, the Liberals did not accept my proposed alternative, which would have been a heck of a lot more accurate. Now, look, you and I know very well, Ezra, that over the last 2.5 years, there's been a tremendous unleashing of brazen, violent, anti-Semitic hate on streets. We've also seen hate and attacks against Christian houses of worship, 123 churches burned or vandalized in the last 5 years. But no community is going to be protected from hate by legislation that actually takes aim at their fundamental religious freedoms and all free expression rights for Canadians. And that's what Bill C9 does. As presented by the Liberals, it changes the definition of hate, replacing the one the Supreme Court has always held to with a definition that has a much lower bar and a lot more ambiguity behind it. The Liberals tried to remove a critical safeguard against laying a hate speech prosecution, which was the requirement that the Attorney General consent to a charge. We've also seen a bill that adds a new standalone hate offense that can be tacked on to any other federal law in Canada.
Is that C9 or is that a different bill?
This is Bill C9.
Oh my.
It adds a standalone hate offense that can be tacked on to any other federal law, including non-criminal laws like the Canadian Human Rights Act, which means you could have a criminal penalty attached to a civil infraction. So these were some of the concerns. We were able to mitigate some of these things through the committee process. Attorney General consent is still going to be required. We were able to get an amendment passed yesterday that restores the definition of hate. But a lot of the key concerns with the bill went unaddressed by the Liberals, including the most egregious, which was the Liberal bloc amendment to remove longstanding religious speech protections, often called the religious defense from the criminal code. This is basically, to go back to what Mark Miller has said on record, the government wants the ability to criminally charge you for quoting certain verses of scripture, whether it's the Bible or the Torah, if the government views it as hateful. And this is why so many people of faith across the country rose up, and the Liberals didn't want to hear from them. They didn't want to hear what they had to say. So they censored debate on the censorship bill. This week used parliamentary tricks to force this bill through the committee, which happened yesterday, and it will be coming back to the House of Commons for a very abbreviated quote unquote debate that will last just a couple of days before the bill gets pushed through to the Senate.
Isn't that interesting? Because Justin Trudeau, I'm not going to say he slow walked the bills. Maybe he was just personally lazy. Maybe his government moved more slowly. But Trudeau was in office for about 10 years, and he didn't manage to get out his, I think he called it C-63, the online harms bill, which had some of the elements here. It looks like Mark Carney is moving faster and using parliamentary tactics to hustle things along. Can Can I ask you, how have the NDP and Bloc Québécois responded? Because I recall when Trudeau was bringing in censorship, they were totally supportive. I assume that's the case now also?
So it depends on what you mean. So on Bill C-9, at the beginning, every party but the Liberals were against it. The Conservatives were against it. The NDP were against it. The Bloc Québécois were against it. The Greens were, the Green was against it. And that was, I think, very important. And that was why the Liberals made this unholy alliance with the Bloc Québécois to remove religious freedoms in exchange for the Bloc support of the bill. Bloc Québécois has long sought to push this very radical secularization of society. The NDP has said they are against Bill C-9 still, so has the Green MP, Elizabeth May, but the Liberal and the Bloc combined have enough. Now, this is just on C-9. The Liberals have said that the Online Harms Act, which was C-63 in the previous Parliament, is going to be coming back. We don't know in what form it will take. We don't know if it's just going to be a cut and paste of
Whoops. Sorry, gang. I screwed up there. Here.
More than 23 million barrels of oil to deal with the current global supply.
You sure about that?
I'm just asking this question on behalf of networks.
Right.
To deal with the current global supply challenges, what more do you think the government should be doing now?
Well, I am not convinced they're releasing any additional oil. They have no oil to release. We don't have a strategic oil stockpile in Canada. We are the only G7 country without one. So I think it's another illusion for Mark Carney to pretend that he's releasing stockpiles that he does not have. He does not have the ability to flip a switch and suddenly increase production out of the Canadian oil patch, especially after 10 years of the Liberals trying to keep that oil in the ground. Mr. Carney wrote a book where he said his values included keeping 50% of our oil in the ground. He maintains an industrial carbon tax that makes our production costs prohibitive. He's maintained all of the anti-development laws of Justin Trudeau, and he has not approved a single pipeline in a year or a single project through his major projects office.
Next week, I will be traveling abroad to continue the diplomatic efforts aimed at de-escalation and ensuring that the Iranian people's integrity and human rights are protected and respected.
Honourable Senators, I rise today as the opposition critic to speak to second reading of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. This is yet another piece of Liberal legislation that does attempt to fix the colossal mess the Liberal government made of Canada's criminal law regime since 2015. And while Bill C-14 is a concrete step, this Liberal government bill still fails to make substantial change, taking only incremental steps toward restoring public safety, fairness, justice, and truth in sentencing, all principles that our former Conservative government held dear under Prime Minister Stephen Harper. All around us, we see the repercussions of the more than a decade of the Liberal government's soft-on-crime approach. We see headlines daily of failed Liberal catch-and-release crime policies, which have resulted in an increase of serious criminals back out on the streets through lax bail and sentencing laws. So often we see news stories of horrendous crimes, and seemingly in almost every story it's revealed the alleged perpetrator was out on bail. And some of those offenders commit a staggering number of repeat crimes, taking advantage of weak Liberal laws to create lawlessness and chaos on our streets. The consequences are stark. Since the Trudeau Liberal government was first elected in 2015, violent crime has increased 55%. Firearms crime has increased 130%, and extortion by a whopping 330%. Sexual assaults are up 76%. Homicides are up 29%. At the same time as the rate of violent crime has increased, the Liberal government dismantled most mandatory minimum penalties, while substantial...
And that international law is upheld.
Both in the audience, even backstage with the other reporters, people cheering in the media room as a very humble Jordan accepted the award and paid tribute to those who went before him.
I stand here for...
If anybody ever watched The Wire, they would always respect Michael Jordan, but Michael B. Jordan. But if you haven't seen The Wire, I don't know.
Because of the people that came before me, Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst those giants, amongst those greats, amongst my ancestors, amongst my guys. Thank you, everybody in this room and everybody at home for supporting me over my career.
It was also a great evening for Canada in multiple categories, beginning with...
Please. Let's give him a chance. Come on, Bill. I'm a born and raised a New Yorker. Let's see what he can do, you know?
Oh, okay. Let's see what he can do, but we already know what he is because it's in his own statements and the people he hires. I talked about him. You say you watch it. You must have seen this. The first show was talking about this woman who is his.
I saw, yeah.
Like the head of. But his big issue is the rent. You know, he's the rent is too damn high guy, and that's a good issue. And affordability is a great issue. And but you know, I said, how do I know he's a communist? Well, I'm reading between the lines when he hired someone who says word for word, let's elect more communists. Okay, if you okay, this is not like something you have to really figure out. Elect more communists. Yeah. That's a communist. Now, if Barack Obama or any reasonable Democrat had anybody on their staff who had that on their resume, it'd be like a huge scandal. But this guy, this is just where we are. Like communism, I said it. I'm not a. It's a political philosophy. It's an economic philosophy. You're allowed to believe it. You're allowed to vote for it. Mm-hmm. Let's just not pretend that that's not what this is.
Oh, well, speaking of communism.
Of NATO, an alliance which does have a nuclear deterrent at its heart, as you know. I'll make two final comments. One is commend President Macron's initiative to provide a layered element to that deterrence. The modalities and the breadth of that, of course, to be worked out, but we commend that initiative.
Modalities.
From a NATO perspective, from a European security perspective, it's not directly affecting Canada. And then the last thing, which is not nuclear per se, but I just underscore in terms of the changing threat environment, the risk to Canada from new missile systems, hypersonic missiles and others, is necessitating big investments, including in over-the-horizon radar and beyond, in order to have a
fucking fearmonger like Carney. I can't stand Carney. Oh, speaking of guys,
watched by the reaction. Conservatives and the NDP sprint to the nearest microphone to declare a backroom deal, like they've uncovered some grand conspiracy involving trench coats, dim lighting, and a briefcase full of unmarked bills. But here's the thing. Floor crossing is literally one of the oldest, most public, most above-board traditions in Westminster democracy. It's not a secret handshake. It's not a smoke-filled room. It's an MP standing up in broad daylight and saying, yeah, I'm done with this team. That's not a backroom deal. That's a front row seat to political agency. And the outrage? Please. Parties love floor crossers when they're the ones receiving them. Suddenly, it's not a scandal. It's a principled stand, a courageous choice, a moment of clarity. Funny how the moral compass always points toward whichever caucus door just opened. So maybe the real issue isn't backroom deals. Maybe it's that some parties only like democracy when it stays put. MPs are humans, humans move, and sometimes they move away from you. And honestly, instead of making wild accusations every time someone leaves, maybe take a breath and ask yourselves why they're leaving in the first place. A little self-reflection might be more productive than another round of theatrical outrage.
Oh, that guy is a loser. Speaking of losers.
Sebastian, chill out. He's just a friend.
Bro, and you got my kids on the ground.
What are you talking
about? Bro, you got my kids on the ground, bro. My daughter's on the ground.
my God.
Okay, that's good.
Oh,
That's good.
That's good.
Get up there.
Do it.
No, I can't. Come on.
Do it.
Come on. I don't want to do it.
It's so fun. Come on, you gotta do it.
Do it. Right now. Oh my God. Go.
It's too late.
Oh my God.
Ansley, sorry, babe. I don't think this backing track was working for you. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible backing track.
Simon Cowell's a jerk.
So I don't think we can judge you properly on this. I really don't. We really like you, but that was terrible. I'm just wondering whether we should just do a verse and a chorus, maybe a cappella. Do you want some water?
I hope I don't get busted.
Yeah.
Hang on. Come here, come here. Ansley, I haven't had any of this.
The reprieve line.
This will help.
Oh
It's like magic water. It's yours.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think.
That's it for that. Next.
Who you?
You probably see me catch pedophiles on the internet.
Oh
yeah. So Ron, can I have that phone, boss? Why you been talking with a little boy? Why you having dinner with a little boy?
He contacted me.
No, you
Why
wrote
you
first.
Contacted
You wrote
me.
the little boy first on Grindr. I know how this works.
So innocent.
So let's go through a little bit of what you're doing here, man. Mr.
Go.
Ron Callahan. That's three bad gum at the table, Ron. You got no manners.
Yeah, good boy. Elbows off the table, man. Yeah, elbows off the table, manners.
So I have always had a special place in my heart for kids.
You always had a special place in your heart for kids, huh?
Why are you taking that long?
Look at this. The whole time.
Check this out, though. This is old school.
Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute, please.
Give him a book.
People want to know what that means that you just said. In your own word, tell us, what does that mean?
Old school.
It means just what it says.
No.
The audience shouldn't be able to intimidate you into this. If you want to do it, it's up to you.
Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him.
The best thing is the way that Oprah's going to break this down. Like, old school Oprah was raw.
Also shall the Son of Man be ashamed.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute, please. People want to know what that means that you just said. In your own word, tell us, what does that mean?
It means just what it says.
The audience shouldn't be able to intimidate you into this. If you want to do it,
I'm sure you saw the devastating numbers that have come out from the January Statistics Canada on auto. So we've seen a 32.5% decline in auto light-duty vehicles and automobiles to the United States, and a 21% decline in parts. Conservatives have been saying to this government for almost a year now that the Canadian auto industry is in deep trouble with the tariffs that have been put on autos. In 1 year alone, the current tariffs have caused Canadian auto producers to pay $2.5 billion in tariffs. If they were to get that down to 5%, which they haven't been able to, that would be $800 million in tariffs. These are tariffs that our auto manufacturers actually cannot afford to continue to pay. And we have stressed how important it is for Mark Carney and the Liberals to get a deal on this. In fact, the Prime Minister said he would have this issue resolved Canada Day of 2025. We're now approaching Canada Day of 2026, and we're having devastating consequences. We've lost almost 10,000 jobs in the auto.
If you look at the performance of the labor market over the course of the last 6 months, we've created over 80,000 jobs net over the last 6 months. The United States has created 6,000 jobs. Okay, the United States 11 times the size of our economy. Wages are growing at 4.2%, fastest wage growth in years. Unemployment 6.7% is lower than the peak when the level when I came into office a year ago. There's no question, though, because it goes to the first part of your question. Now I'll move to that, which is that given the scale of the trade actions, the uncertainty that is associated as well as with the trade actions by the United States, that is causing big adjustments in the Canadian economy. And that's why we're making major investments across a whole range of areas. I won't go through them all. I think you're...
To the Michigan car ramming, we do not yet have a motive. And yes, the suspect happened to have been a Muslim, but that was an unrelated coincidence. And yes, there have been several other unrelated coincidences over the past few days, but that's what they are, just coincidences. We have not yet figured out if there's a pattern here. There was a vicious rumor going around the suspect's name was Muhammad. And I'm just going to say that was pure Islamophobia. There was no... Oh, that was the name of a suspect in the different shooting today in Virginia? Okay. Well, the important thing is to not make this about Islamophobia. I feel like a broken record here. And obviously thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the car rammer.
So Mayor Mamdani in New York City wants to raise the estate taxes from 16 to 50% and lower the number from $7.1 million to $750,000, which, by the way, who do you think this affects? New York City has 123 billionaires, average age 67 years old. What do you think a 67-year-old is thinking about? Estate planning, living trust, and guess who else is probably going to be talking to that daddy that's worth $2.8 billion or $6.9 billion? Their kids are saying, Dad, we can't stay here if he's going to want to tax you this way. Number two, who else you think? The financial advisor at Goldman, Morgan, Merrill, whoever it is, going to say, probably not a good idea for you to stay here. And last but not least, the actual companies, the firms, the Goldman, the investment bankers, the bigger companies are probably going to hold a meeting saying, what are we going to do with these 123 billionaires? That if they stay here and they die, the number we have that we're managing right now is going to split if this passes. Of course, for it to pass, he's going to need Hochul, and they're right now feuding back and forth. But the reality of it is, the more language like this is spoken, California barely flinched at a 5% wealth tax, $1 trillion of wealth left. New York
sometimes say or post strange things, but that's just how my brain works. To anyone I've offended, I just want to say I reinvented electric cars and I'm sending people to Mars in a rocket ship. Did you think I was also going to be a chill, normal dude?
To stop negative thought loops. You're going to love it. It's going to get your mind off the merry-go-round.
Would you like to try a sample?
Aren't you Ben Stiller?
No.
You're Ben Stiller?
No, I'm just the guy giving the...
You're Ben Stiller.
I'm not. They have 30 calories, only 5 or 7 grams of sugar. I'm not Ben Stiller.
She hanged around with a blood named Smokey. So I still have to know he was joking. He took her down, down, down.
sad it is for us in Canada and in the United States to watch what you're doing to yourself. I mean, the UK is a great country. When I go there, I go to Oxford, I go to Cambridge, to these remarkable places in London, see your unbelievable deep history, understand how much the world owes the UK in terms of, say, the establishment of common law and decent government everywhere, including places like India. We owe the UK such an immense debt. And to watch you guys like spiral yourselves into the ground for this idiot, weak political correctness that's gone so far that you can allow your working class women to be raped en masse sadistically and say nothing about it and gaslight people who are telling the truth. It's so sickening. It's so demoralizing. It's almost unspeakable. We all pray, hope and pray here in Canada and the US that you get your act together and grow some spine again and put your damn country back together and stand up to these bloody psychopathic bullies and the woke green mob, because it would be a dreadful shame to lose you.
To protect.
Suggesting God is on our side is not new.
We trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail.
But U.S. President Trump,
lifting up the arms of our president,
who prayed with Christian leaders in the Oval Office after starting the war, is seen by some as anointed by God. Influential pastor John Hagee links the war with Iran to biblical prophecy leading to Armageddon and says that Trump is the one to stop Iran.
Other presidents did not have that courage. Donald Trump has that courage, thank God.
Pete Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of Defense, holds prayer services at the Pentagon and read Old Testament scripture at a briefing this week.
Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle.
The Military Religious Freedom Foundation says it's received more than 200 complaints from military members that commanders are using religion, in some cases biblical prophecy, to justify the mission.
Their commanders view it in their version of Christian nationalism, that this was all foretold in the biblical book of Revelation.
Washington has long painted Iran as a country of religious extremists.
Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics.
Iran is a theocratic authoritarian regime, but conflicts historically are more bloody when one or both sides use religion to rationalize the fight.
The idea of trying to have this be...
He did say theocratic, right? Like, theocratic, I'm not sure.
Our God versus your God, again, past is prologue. That has never ended well.
To many, this war is really about oil and power in the Middle East. Religion tries to inject superior morality.
It may be used by both sides to justify certain acts of really...
I don't know whether you're innocent or guilty. How would I know?
Well, you do know I'm innocent. I can see it all over your face, Pierce.
No, you can't.
Of course I can.
I don't know what you're guilty of or innocent of.
Well, you sat there and told me that Israel wasn't committing a genocide and you were wrong. And you told me that the vaccine was important and you were wrong. And you told me that I was going to go to jail in Romania and you were wrong. So your whole life you've been wrong.
I didn't.
So you're wrong
well,
again if you believe in the
okay,
British
just to be
justice system,
clear.
that's a setup and a scam.
Just to be clear.
I'm innocent completely.
Just to be clear, I did not. Just to be clear.
You get educated. And I am telling you,
all right,
I'm
keep
innocent.
shouting.
So you should listen to me.
Okay. I don't know whether you're innocent or guilty. How would I know?
Well, you do know I'm innocent. I can see it all over your face, Pierce.
No, you can't.
Of course I can.
I don't know what you're guilty of or innocent of. But
well,
I do
you
think...
sat there and told...
Too well. The queer community, as well as intersecting communities and adjacent communities, are under extreme attack in this country from all angles, it seems, from the highest levels of government.
Was that guy's name?
Government to society in general, and to even sometimes people that we consider friendly fire, unfortunately. And so now more than ever in this moment, it is so critical, I think, to have trans leadership, because we all know too well the queer community, as well as intersecting communities and adjacent communities, are under extreme attack in this country from all angles.
Extreme attack all over that country, I'm sure.
Seems from the highest levels of government to society in general.
Nobody gives a shit about that crap. They do, to antagonize you. They want you to hate them. Gives them an excuse.
And to even sometimes people that we consider friendly fire, unfortunately.
Out of here.
that the Trump administration is so vilified by the Kimmels, the Colberts, the network news. Why do they hate him so much?
I think it's liberal women that have lost their minds are controlling these men, and these guys have no more balls.
Oh, I thought you said they changed. You were going to change. So
Kimmel has no balls. Kimmel is ballless. He's been deballed by his wife. His wife is the head writer of the show. She used to be an assistant writer. Now she's the writer. And I think that's completely ruined him. I do. I mean, I'm sorry, Jimmy. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right.
Why do you think that the Trump administration is so vilified?
You're a traitor to this country.
I saw
my brothers and my uncles and my grandfather fought to protect this country.
So
and
did
you're
my
a traitor.
dad.
Your dad would be turning in his grave if he saw you out here.
He'd be right here standing with me.
He would be kicking you in the ass.
Why?
Because you're a traitor.
No, I'm not.
You're a traitor. You're a selfish traitor.
No,
we have to send money down east. You're just pissed off because the stupid people in Alberta will not vote for somebody that represents them. They gotta vote for a fucking conservative. They're stupid people, like you are, but besides that, you're traitors.
He should wear that hat backwards. Watch this one. This one is really entertaining. Watch Ryan Garrettson make an ass of himself, like anytime he's in front of the camera.
I don't see nine. I don't care. You know what? I'm a great grandmother, and you know what? You guys are making our country unsafe right now. You're allowing men in our change rooms to say they're living under your government ideology. We never voted for it.
Thank you very much for taking the time to share that with me. I appreciate it.
You know another thing? The green slush fund. $400 million. Green slush fund. When are we going to get those documents?
This is a private meeting. I do appreciate you taking the time to share.
You're a public servant. You're a public servant.
But that doesn't mean I'm available.
Well, I don't care. You know what? Foreign
Thank you very much, Vincent, New Scotland. Good to see you too. We had a bad week last week with an internet connection. I think we've got it resolved.
We have foreign interference in Canada. Nine ministers may be compromised.
I really appreciate you.
No, nine ministers.
Why won't you talk to the general public? Why can you not talk to us?
I always talk to the general public. But I always do. But when you come and you interrupt a conversation, a personal conversation.
Well, it's our lives.
But I really do appreciate you taking the time to share this with me.
We're passionate patriots.
Have a lovely day, okay?
Yeah. As usual, always shutting us down. Infiltration.
Corruption. Scandals. Canadians want answers. You guys forced him in.
The girls got him. Check this one.
Introductions are really funny. They paid me $60, so I wore a tie. How many of you are 36 years older than 36 years old?
Look how old this video is. Like, this has got to be 1985. Like,
yeah, you were born pre-computer. The computer's 36 years old. And there's something sort of, I think that there's going to be a little slice in the timeline of history as we look back. Pretty meaningful slice right there. A lot of you are products of the television generation. I'm pretty much a product of the television generation, but to some extent starting to be a product of the computer generation. And the kids growing up now are definitely products of the computer generation. And in their lifetimes, the computer will become the predominant medium of communication, just as the television took over from the radio, took over from even the book. Boy, I'll talk about anything you want to talk about today. I have about 15 or 20 minutes of stuff that I just wanted to cover really quickly. And then whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. How's that? Yeah.
We're not going to.
This is a perfect example of how these activists react when they're confronted with reality.
Greta, who was filming your arrest in Germany? Because it looked like you did that in several takes, didn't you? You were posing with the police. He's answering for you. Well, who was filming you then?
I don't know media.
You don't know who was filming you in Germany? He said he knows. He says it was an agency. How many times were you arrested? Because you posed for several times, didn't you?
This is a perfect example of how these activists react when they're confronted with.
Check out.
Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane.
Here, let's back this up.
Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane. We have cleaned up this city. Oh, yeah, historic, really? I'll tell you what's historic. What's historic is that I prosecute everything other than 10% of the cases, where the United States attorney before me didn't prosecute 67% of the cases. That's what's historic. I'm willing to take a not guilty. I'm willing to take a no true bill, because I'll take all the crimes and put them in. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're off to another
Prime Minister. I'm still hoping against hope that some part of him realizes that he must be at the beginning of a learning curve. He hasn't been a member of Parliament before. Parliamentary procedures are new to him. He isn't going to ever learn them because he's so good at bulldozing over them. But one never knows. There's always the chance that something will make a brilliant man realize, I know, and he may, as I said, I'm speaking in his voice, I suppose, I may know everything there is to know about central banking, but I don't know a thing about Parliament. Maybe there's something I should be learning. I still hope, though, he'll have that kind of epiphany that being the smartest guy in the room, in almost any room he's ever been in, doesn't mean that there's nothing to learn about respecting Parliament and properly studying legislation before bulldozing.
Narcissist.
Too skinny at the 2026 Brits. Too skinny, sick, on Ozempic, falling apart. Let's actually talk about it. I used to be bigger, not unhealthy, just not Hollywood thin. But when The Osmonds aired, I became the fat daughter. That was the headline. Designers wouldn't dress me. Interviews were about my body, not my work. So yes, and in 2018 I had gastric sleeve surgery. I've never hidden that. After years of crash dieting and hating what I saw in the mirror because the world told me I wasn't enough, I worked out, I changed how I ate. In 2020, I lost 85 pounds. Suddenly, I was goals. Before my dad died, I was thin but healthy and stable. And then I lost Ozzy Osbourne. Grief isn't...
She was fine before, like... She's okay now, it just looks weird.
Today is the kind of racism we've been talking about. It is institutionalized. If you have your human rights tribunals and your professional regulators and your universities and your governments preferring some races over others for programs and subsidies and seats and jobs and liabilities, then you have embedded racism in your institutions. The real racism, I'm afraid, today is the kind of racism we've been talking about. It is institutionalized. If you have your human rights tribunals and your professional regulators and your universities and your governments preferring some races over others for programs and subsidies and seats and jobs and liabilities, then you have embedded racism in your institutions. The real racism...
Announcing a series of transformative initiatives that will help unlock the full potential of this vast region. We're moving...
It's so frustrating to watch him because he's so full of it. Like, he's such a narcissist, sociopath, disillusioned. I'm not saying he's dumb because I think he's very smart, but I don't think he's good. Like...
forward with an ambitious new plan backed by more than $40 billion of investments in Canada's North and Arctic. Investments to defend our sovereignty and to deter new threats. Investments to connect, build, and transform Northern and Arctic communities. With this plan, we are taking control of our future.
Someone's
We
future.
will no
Someone- you're
longer
taking
rely
control
on
of someone's
others.
Future. What's going down here? Battle of the lightweights. It's the featherweights. You never know what you're going to find on X.
Hello. Norwegian authorities repeatedly emphasize that the United States is Norway's most important ally. Do the German Chancellor and the Canadian Prime Minister still believe that the US can be trusted when it comes to security in the North?
Yes. Yes.
It's a big joke.
Is that? Do you want me to elaborate on that? We have our defense of the North is integrated. I'll give an example through NORAD, which is since for my entire lifetime has been the integrated listening post air defense system in the.
Let's wrap it up with Doug Ford.
Over the last few weeks,
asshole
I've been
of the
disgusted
East.
and appalled by the open hatred and violence taking place in our country.
Loser.
Well, good afternoon. Over the last few weeks, I've been disgusted and appalled by the open hatred and violence taking place in our country. We've seen synagogues and consulates shot at. We've seen entire communities targeted and intimidated. And just yesterday, right across the border, we've seen a hatred few of us can even imagine and understand. When a gunman attacked innocent Jewish worshipers inside a Michigan synagogue, we need to speak honestly and openly.
I think that's an awful thing that happened, but Doug Ford talking about it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We're trying a different interface where we can just float around and do the internet. And we're going to work on this week because they're off again. Like all the members of Parliament, all of them. And that's not a partisan issue. All of them are off. And I don't think that's cool. They were just off a week ago. Like, oh, it's ridiculous. Anyhow, thank you all so much for watching. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We'll be back all week covering stuff like this. That's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Ciao for now. We are out.